Hey everyone, Jack here with a quick video today on streamlining. So we're going to be looking at a few exercises you can do in the dry training scenario just to help improve your total streamlining position. The whole reason behind why we would like to do this is it's going to make us much more relaxed in the water and it's going to improve our efficiency much more. For those of you who do lots of dynamic or dynamic no fins, this is going to be of great benefit for you. If you're doing a lot of depth as well, being able to comfortably hold that position not only is going to help for streamlining, but it's going to help with your relaxation on your chest cavity a little bit deeper as well. So let's just get straight into it, and we're going to start with a little bit about the technique. Now, with the technique for the streamlining position, the first mistake a lot of people make is when they see someone putting their arms up like this, is they try to force it with their shoulders. This causes people to shrug their shoulders up into awkward positions. They can never really get their arms totally together. Okay, this is a very common mistake that a lot of people make, and it's all about just how you actually set that position. Those people who do a bit of swimming might be very familiar with how we get into this position, but for those of you who aren't, there's a little simple tips to get started with it. So we're just going to start with our hands and move down our arms and how we can hold it in a very comfortable way. So starting with our hands, what we want to be doing is placing one hand over the other, just like that. Don't need to do anything fancy, just one hand over the other, and this thumb is going to be our lock. That holds it just like that. Now what we are going to aim to do next is instead of pushing with our arms, pushing with our shoulders and trying to push it all together as tight as possible, causing unnecessary tension, we're just going to be rotating our elbows in and then have our pits of our elbows facing up like that. Pretty simple. Now what that's going to do is it's going to eliminate unnecessary shrugging of our shoulders and keeping our body much more relaxed. So to set it into position, I place my hands, lock over lock, and then all I'm going to be doing is just turning my elbows in towards my head. And by doing that, I can feel the sides of my elbows just on the side of my head there. They're not going anywhere, and my shoulders are feeling nice and relaxed. And I can hold this position all day. So that's a little bit of a basic about what we need to look for with the technique. So getting that shoulder turn is very important. With a bit of practice and opening up your shoulder flexibility over time is where we're going to be getting the most of the improvement from this. So that brings us to our next bit, where we look about how we can improve our stretching and flexibility around these areas. Now with improving your shoulder flexibility, what we want to be doing is we want to be mainly focusing on improving our overhead shoulder flexibility. So when we talk about overhead shoulder flexibility, we want to be talking about the range of motion. So when we lift our arm up like this, what happens to the rest of our body? What we want to prevent from happening is arching of our back, shifting our lower back forward, or creating any unnecessary slouching. This is common with a lack of flexibility in the shoulder. So what we're going to be doing is some basic exercises to help free up the arm a little bit more, so it allows it to move a little bit more freely and get into that nice comfortable position. For these exercises, what I'm going to be using is I have my little elastic band here, so a very simple workout band. If you don't have one of these, you can use a bit of rope or just simply a towel, but it needs to be long enough that you can hold it in a position like that, nice and short. For some of the exercises, it can also be used as a good alternate extender should you be unable to reach that extra distance. So that's one little one we're going to be looking at there. Another thing that we're going to be looking at is how we can do some vertical hangs to free up our shoulder mobility. So for this you are going to need some sort of ledge, railing, chin-up bar, anything which you can freely hang from. So let's just get into some basic stretches and I'll continue on from there. one dry stretching exercise that is going to be very useful for you is doing some hangs. Now, vertical hangs are very easy to do. Everyone can do them to some degree, and all you need is a space where you can just hang. It's kind of like a very lazy form of stretching. So to get into it, all you need to do is just hang shoulder width apart, and then what's going to happen is you're just going to let your body weight slowly just let the gravity do its work. And what this is going to do is it's going to stretch your shoulders out and pull them to a nice vertical position. And it just passively stretches the body just like that. You just let gravity do the work. If you are like me, and I'll be stretching in a doorway where I'm going to be way too tall for it, I just let myself go down to my knees, so that way I'm still getting the full effect of the stretch. Or if you want to use a lunge position just to get a bit of extra control over how much weight you're putting into the stretch, this is very helpful, say if you're just getting used to it or don't have much strength in your shoulder to begin with. This can be a very easy way to let into the stretch. Just remember that when you're in a lunge position, just to let gravity do the work. Don't be forcing the stretch or pushing forward with the lunge. It should just be a nice vertical way, and you should just be letting yourself down into the stretch. So that's pretty much a little bit about hangs and some extra stuff we can work on. Let's continue on to our next part with how we can actually look and improve this. A good way to actually get some feedback for how you can improve your streamlining and how your progress is going is simply a little check in the pool. So getting your weighting right, obviously you need to make sure that you have a neutral buoyancy set for the pool, and obviously you need to have a balanced buoyancy. So this would mean using a neck weight belt, making sure that you're going to be nice and neutral and also even going through the water. Now, when we're doing a push-off test, make sure you practice on a full lungful. And all you need to be working on is just holding that streamlining position as comfortably as possible, and you're just going to push off, not move, let yourself glide to a stop, and then we're going to put a marker down to measure the distance. And then over time, just getting some feedback, just playing around with different things. So I recommend definitely playing with that hand position at the front. What the angle of this is going to make a big difference for how much speed you carry through the water. Very simply, if you're just pushing off and your hands are down like this, or too far up, it can really create quite a heavy break. Also, another little streamlining tip, keeping your feet together and pointing your toes is going to be a very helpful thing for this push-off test, just to make sure you're getting the maximum amount of glide out of it. So, little things to practice on there. A good tip is always add a little bit of things to do with shoulder mobility to the end of your workout or stretching routine, just to help keep freeing up the flexibility. Also, before training, just a simple warm-up exercise, just doing a deep inhale, holding up, and just opening things up a little bit are going to be very beneficial to your streamlining position in that training session. Particularly if you do a physical job during the day and train in the evening, I highly recommend doing it that way. So that's pretty much it for today's lesson. If you have any questions about other things you can improve on streamlining, just fire away. I also have an article up, a little bit more in-depth look at the stretches and things you can actually do to improve them. And then we're also going to be taking a look at a few other techniques in the next few coming weeks. If you have any suggestions for things you need to improve, don't forget to send me a message. And if you like what you're seeing, just subscribe away and keep in touch for the next video. So that's it from me. I'll see you next time.